Hello and welcome to Billy Ho Sports. Well, it's done. The post positions have been drawn. They were drawn last night, opening night at Churchill Downs. Today, we're going to examine all the key factors at play, from any advantages any connections have, and who faces an uphill battle for post positions and all that stuff pertaining to that and the running style. Who's next to who? What advantage does it have? The horses on the right or the left of you? Uh, no real news to update as far as that goes. We'll save that for another day. I'm sure things will go down this week, so to speak. We may lose a couple here or there. We'll never know. So we're going to deep dive into the contenders, go over each post position, and discuss a little bit about, good or bad or indifferent on each horse and prospects, and stick around because we're going to have an all-new top 10 list, and you might be surprised at the way it was shuffled around. So, always check out the playlist. I got pushing 60 videos by the time the Derby rolls around. Going to be all kinds of good information in there for you. I'm going back through it myself because I think it's interesting to watch race replays and to see how these horses ran in certain situations. We're going to look at some gate breaks on these races like the Florida Derby and the Louisiana Derby and everything like that, to see how these horses break out of the gate, to see, maybe if there any compromises there. So as always, please sub to the channel. Much appreciated. Smash that like button for me. Leave us a comment. Tell me maybe what the post draw has done for your top 2 or 3 choices, and has it changed your mind, or has it reinforced what you already knew? Let's get into it. It was a warm night at Churchill Downs for the kickoff of Kentucky Derby Week. Between unveiling that $200 million paddock, which is just absolutely awesome, and the historic post position draw a week early in between races 3 and 4, fans by the thousands were gathered with anticipation right after race 3. Remember, they also drew the Kentucky Oaks. So I will probably have a video on that this week. So be on the lookout. So anyway, the drawing was held in the Paddock Terrace at Churchill Downs. Post positions were the traditional pill pull, where they just take a number and then they draw a horse, and then that horse is where you go. And that's the stall the horse will break from in the starting gate. After all is said and done, we have the starting positions for all 20 entries into the Kentucky Derby. So now it's time to, somewhat similar to the NFL draft, which was actually over this weekend as well, to determine who won and who lost. So first, I want to reiterate the importance of the 20 stall starting gate that was implemented in 2020. It's a completely different outlook. It really kind of makes things a lot more fair, to where you're not going to get completely screwed over if you have a 20th post or the number 1 post. It's now a little bit more preferable to be farther outside with that evenly distributed gate. And there's really just no dead draws altogether. So just to get that out of the way, we start with post 1, where Dornoch is. He'll have the opportunity to break to the lead. That's what they're going to do. They're going to have to send him now, because I don't think they want to try to file him in and just save ground and make any kind of moves in the middle of the race. He could get lost in a pile of horses if he doesn't get out there. If he has to check up and gets lost like that, he's done, in my opinion. So I look back at the breaks from some of his races. I kind of did, just because it was such a polarizing post draw for a horse that we've been following all season. I looked at his maiden win at Keeneland. I looked at his Remsen. I looked at the Fountain of Youth. All of those, he was able to get out pretty good and to get to the lead. So the good news actually is that the few horses that are just to his right aren't looking for the lead. They're more closers. Post 2, we get into, so that's Sierra Leone. and he's going to have to avoid some traffic. He's a big bodied horse. If you watch it's hilarious to me when he's worked in the workout where they go around the turn and they show the ass end of him going around, and he's just got this big fat bubble butt going around. It's really funny. You'll have to go back and watch the workout, and after they complete the work, his gallop out and they go around the turn. It's really funny looking. But anyway, I don't think he'll have any issues getting wide. He can avoid traffic uh, from the inside post. It's an okay draw for him. I don't think it's ideal. I think they would prefer to be out a little further, but there's really not much to say about him. So if he does what he does, Chad Brown has got a good shot to get to the winner's circle. Post 3 goes to Mystic Dan. Fine draw for his stalking style. He probably won't break out fast either. He'll be well enough inside to save ground, so he can possibly maybe pull off what he did in the Southwest, where he kind of snuck in on the inside and it made the move down the lane. I'm not really over the moon on a post 3 from him, but it's not detrimental either. So this one's a good post draw, I think. Post 4 goes to Brad Cox's Catching Freedom. No stranger to traffic himself. Jockey Flavian Pratt should have him right where he needs to be. He's an experienced jockey. He did get credit for the victory on Country House, even though he didn't cross the finish line first. He's got plenty of Derby experience. I love the way he closed the Louisiana Derby from like 8-9 wide down the stretch. I think that's a likely path to victory in the Kentucky Derby. When horses hit that final turn for home, he may be out wide just like he was. Same goes for Honor Marie. So looking forward to that. Post 5 is Catalytic. Forwardly placed in 2 out of his 3 races. He took a big leap from 6 to 9 furlongs. Did it with relative ease in the Florida Derby. Ran second all the way, was pretty solid behind Fiercest. Never had a shot to catch him. But he's getting his 4th different jockey in 4th different race. Jose Ortiz, no knock on Jose. We all know what a great jockey he is. He's not a regular rider at Churchill Downs, but I believe he's going to stick around and ride the meet. So post 6 goes to Dwayne Lucas and Just Steel. He's been decently versatile over his 10 starts. He's not really strictly a stalker. He's been on or close to the lead in a lot of his races, but he seems to be a little better in stalking mode. But it's really going to be tough to get into that first flight of horses. But I still feel okay about him, just maybe not as strong as before. Post 7, Honor Marie. I think he's sitting on a big race as well. He went 7 wide right next to Catching Freedom, was just out kicked by a length. So those 2 horses are very, very close to each other. But Catching Freedom, I think, is better by a little bit. I think he can handle traffic better. But check this out. Honor Marie has 6 starts, or 5 starts, excuse me. This is going to be his 3rd start as a 3-year-old. So he had a 3-race cycle as a 2-year-old. It finished second in a 100K N1X, and then won the Kentucky Jockey Club. So he's kind of lined up for a similar approach to the Kentucky Derby, where he had finished second to Catching Freedom in the Louisiana Derby. So will this be his forward-moving big race? I kind of like that. Post 8 is Just a Touch, who many people are loving in this race. Unraced at 2, he's going to have to follow in his sire's footsteps, Justify. He did run a huge race in the Bluegrass, but as I've seen many times, horses come out of their final prep running a huge race and everybody jumps on them, especially in the Bluegrass. Many times these horses can disappoint. So just keep that in mind. Look for the Derby Week video featuring the past performances from Brisnet, because I'll show you a flash here. This horse is number 1 in the Prime Power ratings. So check that out. So anyway, post 9 goes to entry 2 from the Brad Cox barn, Encino. Even Polly Shore was wheezing on the juice at his draw. So he's going to have exactly 3 weeks off from his wire-to-wire victory in the Lexington Stakes. He earned just a 95 Brisnet figure for that effort, but I thought it was a little better than that. It looked like he did okay. Jumped right out to the lead. I think the dirt suits him just fine. He's working really good. Uh, if you look at this real quick work, he is eyeballing his stablemate Catching Freedom, wanting to get at him and get him a piece. And he's being held back. He's being restrained some. I don't know if that to me registers some sort of tactical switch in approach, like they don't want to send him out front like they did in the Lexington Stakes, because they were really holding him back and letting Catching Freedom get a lead and then having him come up on him on the outside in that workout. So he didn't like that at all. But once he got cut loose, he was running pretty well. Now, I will say he's getting jockey Axel Concepcion, who was the apprentice jockey of the year last year. So I think it's a slight drawback having an inexperienced jockey riding in the Kentucky Derby. I think he's got a bright future, obviously, but his biggest victory was aboard Chop Chop recently in the Grade 3 Bewitched. So he hasn't got a lot of like big time Breeders' Cup and classic type experience. So that is, I think, going to be a slight negative for Encino. Post 10 is T.O. Password. He's a speedster out of the Japan Rising Sun land. So anyway, he went to the lead, wired the field going clockwise at 9 furlongs at Nakayama Racecourse before he came over. It's possible they send him to the lead. This could maybe they try to rabbit him and to try to give his stable or not stablemate, but his fellow Japanese compatriot Forever Young a chance to stalk or give him a good pace to run at. I think he might play a factor. That would be the one factor he would play, in my opinion, is the opening pace. So anyway, on to the other Japan fellow countryman, post 11, Forever Young. Good spot for him as he's a stalker. He breaks pretty fast and then finds his spot to track the pace. I think the way Japan, honestly, I still don't think it's their year. I think he's probably a middling finish. I don't think he faced that great a competition. Bookham Dano didn't turn out to be what we thought he'd be, and he's beaten. There's a relatively weak UAE Derby field also where he had horses like Mendelssohn's Bay and things of that nature. So, excuse me. I think the way that Japan will win the Kentucky Derby one day is to send their contender over sooner at 3 years old and let him run in at least one prep over here. Send him over and let him run in one of these like Gulfstream, like a Fountain of Youth or a Holy Bull or something like that. Maybe that's the key to victory. So anyway, we're on to post 12, and that is going to be one of the most interesting horses, Track Phantom. I've pointed out in previous videos how fast he breaks from the gate. So if he has another fast break like he's done every race that I've watched him run in, he should have no issues if he wants the lead getting out by one turn. He seems to be acclimating to the blinkers okay, but adding blinkers and I believe trainer indicated that he might not be actually blasting out to the lead. So I'm not really sure where we land on that. I'll have an eye on that, but I would point out one thing that I noticed in the workout when I was watching the morning show is he was galloping out after a workout and a horse came to his inside and spooked him and he reared up and almost threw his jockey. So those blinkers, I don't know if he caught him off guard or what happened, but horses are horses. So I didn't really read a whole lot into it. I just thought it was an interesting tidbit to point out. And like I said, I think I'll have my final take on him in the next video with past performances and all that stuff. So past performances are out. So if you want to grab them up, go ahead and do that. West Saratoga is next at post 13. I guess he's looking to reclaim that Churchill Downs magic he displayed back in the fall with the Grade 3 Iroquois win. It's a nice story with Larry Demerit, trainer, but I think this is just way too big an ask for him. So he's likely not going to be a play for me. Post 14 goes to Endlessly. A perfect post position, I think, for him, and he's a closer. But I'm still not convinced he's going to shine on this Churchill Downs dirt. So I think I'll take a stand against him. Post 15, Domestic Product, entry 2 for Chad Brown. His position is fine as well. He's a stone closer. Uh, another tidbit from the Brisnet post position sneak preview, he's ranked 20th in prime power. So I think they agree with me when I reiterated that I don't think he's fast enough to run with a 22:46 opening half, 22 opening quarter, things of that nature. But I do think he's got a shot to clean up some pieces late. So most of these horses so far have not had a post draw that's really too compromising. We're going to have to take some stands on these horses, so it's not like, oh, what's his name got post one, so he's done. But like, if you want to take a stand, I can definitely see taking a stand against Dornoch now. That's one of the ones that I would say you could do that, and you'll see that as it reflects in my top 10 list later on. So speaking of domestic product, I think I might be trying to find some books out there that might have some head to heads. I know you can bet these horses like domestic product versus Forever Young or versus whoever that, and you can get plus 110 or plus 220. If I can find some value there, I'll throw down some bets on against him. So post 16, Grand Mo the first. His speed figures very below average. I think he'll have a hard time not getting caught wide from way out here. This is a horse that I'll take a stand against. Post 16 is compromising to, in my opinion. So he's not faster than Fierceness, who's just to his right, and Track Phantom is to his inside. He's not faster than either one of those. I think he might get swallowed up and caught wide. I don't think he's going to be there. He does run pretty hard down the stretch, so he might hang in there for like an 8th place finish or something of that nature, but I don't like him to be in any kind of like trifectas. So, post 17 has never won the Kentucky Derby. Oh my God. So we should definitely not bet Fierceness, right? He drew post 14. Nah. What I'll tell you what, and I've already discussed it. We discussed the gate earlier in the show. In my opinion, post 17 is 0 for 4. I don't think that it's a big deal that 17 hasn't won ever, because that auxiliary gate is compromising. And if you go way back into the old school derbies, how many Kentucky derbies have had 17 or more horses even in the race? So I don't have the math on that, but that's just the point I was going to make. Fierceness, this is a sweet spot for him to roll tough to the lead. He's got a decent speed horse in Grand Mo the first inside, who he easily beat in the Florida Derby to the lead. So I think he'll get out unless he hits the gate or stumbles or has a bad step coming out of the gate. He's going to get out there pretty good, and he won't be more than 3 wide on the turn. I don't think he'll have a problem there. Kind of similarly to the Florida Derby, he was about 2-3 wide in that one, and then he just took the lead right out of that turn and rolled out. So that kind of actually one of the horses that kind of bolded my opinion of him a little bit more. So we'll move on to post 18. That is Stronghold. He breaks from the gate pretty well as also. He doesn't need the lead, but he does like to just lay off the front for the first 3-4 furlongs and then try to get up in there. His draw is not ideal, I don't think, but he looks like he can handle traffic and battle a little bit. I think a post like say 5 through 13 would have suited him better. But he can also just follow right in behind Fierceness and maybe follow his lead and gain his position that way, and maybe just track Fierceness the whole race and stay as close as he can to him, and then maybe have a chance to make a move late in the race if things open up for him. I'll be hoping for a nice price on him because he's definitely still in my exotics pool. So post 19 is Resilience. He earned a big 104 Brisnet number in the Wood Memorial. The Bill Mott coat had the inside ground saving trip from the one post, but he ain't getting that here. He's way out 19. He was one that I'm considering, but now that post draw is one I can take a stand against. So I will be doing so. Lastly is post 20, and that is Society Man. He broke pretty well in the Wood Memorial, and he was closer to the pace. They list him as a closer, but he looked more like he was in stalk mode to me. So not a stone closer, but will be closing. He won't be coming from the clouds or anything like that, but quality jock like Frankie Dettori who's having an absolute sensational year. But the slight knock on that, he hasn't ridden a Kentucky Derby since the year 2000. So definitely some exotics, 50-1 morning line could go up from there. People don't like to play those outside 20 horses. So if you draw him in your pool, don't think you're completely dead. Maybe he has a chance to shock the world like Rich Strike did. You never know. He's pretty fast. He looked decently fast down the stretch and looked like half a second he was going to try to run down Resilience. And then he just kind of flattened out just a hair at the end. So we're going to wrap up the show with an all new top 10. Fierceness remains number one. Like I said, he's a little bit further of a gap in the draw, but the big news is I'm moving Catching Freedom up to number 2 because I like the way he looked on the track. A little tidbit on him, like when we say there's a problem, and I have heard Sierra Leone has gate problems. Sometimes he's finicky. He don't want to load in the gate and everything like that. Well, he's going to be waiting in the number 2 post. He's going to be waiting in that gate a long time while they're loading. So I don't know if they triple load. They were trying to talk about that. They obviously double load. Every race double loads if there's 10 or more horses or whatever. So they may triple load. They may go 120 and then 10 and then try to file it that way. I'm not really sure. But he's still going to have to wait a long time. But what I'm saying about Catching Freedom is he was in the Louisiana Derby where the horse, number 3 horse, I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but he broke through the gate. So they had to reset the whole thing, bring the horse back around and reload him. And he just patiently sat in that gate that whole several minutes. Him and Honor Marie both, I think, get bonus points for patience in that. And I mentioned in a previous video, Honor Marie, how immature he was and acting up and stuff. So that kind of shows a lot of maturity to be able to patiently sit there and wait for those gates to get reset and opened up. So that was just kind of something that kind of pushed me over the edge a little bit. I still think the world of Sierra Leone. I still think the world of Chad Brown. I still think he has a chance to hold his own and hit the stretch with a shot to claim the crown. So I'm definitely not tossing him by any stretch of the imagination. So not much gap between those two. Honor Marie moves up. Like I said, same boat. He just lost to the number 2 ranked horse. I mentioned how he's sitting on a big one. I do firmly believe that. The rest of the top 10 has a few wild cards. I put the 2 Danny Gargan horses, T10. So Dornock is still kind of in the mix, but I don't like the way he's leaning, but I like the way Society Man is moving forward. So that is the top 10 list and kind of an exotics pool. I think there's a lot of good variety in there, a lot of good long shots. So maybe we can all win some money this week and put something together. Like I said, tune in for the next show coming out soon. We're going to go over past performances. We're going to look at what kind of bets we can make and do some research into that and maybe create like a little mini budget on what we're going to spend and do some things that way and have some fun with it. So I appreciate you guys watching. And until next time, see you soon.